So for all of this, I'm charging this amount of money. So I want you to determine what's your package. What are you offering, and what is the amount that you feel your value is worth? Not your education, not how long it takes. I'm looking over here because that's where you are, but I really should be looking here. Not your education, not how long it takes you to help them transform their life. It's based on the value. Okay? What's the value? Okay? That's how you price your program, based on the value. I'm sure 1,000 of you have heard my example about the Starbucks coffee, right? So, did you want to tell them the example? Because they're probably tired of hearing from me. What's the example of the Starbucks coffee?
So we talk about how you can get McDonald's coffee, you can get, coffee from anywhere, but the coffee that you get from Starbucks, people will pay that triple, sometimes double, triple price for the coffee at Starbucks, and you're really paying for the experience. The coffee may taste different, but people go in because they call you by name. They have your grande, your tall, and you have this whole experience, versus when you go to McDonald's or 7-Eleven and you make your own coffee, the experience is not the same. So people pay that extra price for the experience.
That's the value. That's why Starbucks can charge $3, $4, $5, $6 for coffee, when you can easily go to McDonald's or 7-Eleven or Dunkin' Donuts and get like a 99-cent coffee. People don't want that. They're going to pass 2 and 3 McDonald's and Dunkin' Donuts and 7-Elevens just to get to that Starbucks, wait in that long line that's going to wrap around, and then pay double, triple the price. Why? Value. You want to emphasize the value of your program, because that's what people pay for. I'm quite sure there are other programs out there that will address some of the needs of the nonprofit industry. But I would like to think that this program provides more value. You get the coaching, you get my experience, you get what worked for me, and there's no reason why it wouldn't work for anybody else. Okay, that's my intellectual property, right? So think about your package. What are you offering, and what's the value of what you're offering? Okay, then at the bottom, I have what I call the brag bank. So people want to know, well, why should I come to your program versus Sally's program? Right? Well, this is why. You want to list all of the cadences and all of the experience and all of your expertise that makes you an authority or an influencer in your particular industry. Yeah, you might have a degree in something, and that might be relevant depending on what your program is. But don't feel that if you don't have a formal education that you're not an expert. Your experience alone makes you an expert. Okay? So I'm gonna share something with you real quick, and I have to talk low. Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me? You can?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Okay. So I'm not trying to put my son's business out on the street. So for those who know me, they know my son, and my son stutters. I too stutter. You don't. You may not know it or may not have noticed it, but I do stutter. I just learned how to be strategic with my speech. Okay. So my son has been going to speech therapists since he was 4 years old. Okay. They have all of these degrees and all these expertise on language and how to speak and speech patterns and this and that. Okay, great. But it wasn't until, but see, they don't, all of these different therapists that he had, gone to, that we paid for, they didn't stutter. They just learned what it's like for a child who stutters. So we finally identified a gentleman who's a speech therapist, very well known in this area, and he actually stutters. Okay? That's who my son resonated with. That's who was able to get the breakthrough for my son's speech. Because all of these other therapists, they had all these degrees and all this book knowledge, but they couldn't relate to him because they didn't stutter. They didn't know what it was like for him, right? So all of these teachers, they were uh, like giving him passes and making up these excuses and like overcompensating for his speech when it was time for him to give like presentations and so forth. And I'm saying, no, he has to learn to do this like everybody else, right? Now, there might be certain tools or resources that he can use, but don't give him a pass or an excuse not to do something. So I want you to understand the value of your experience. Your experience makes you the expert, not the degrees. It's your experience. So don't feel that you have this. I don't want you to experience this, what's it called? Imposter syndrome. I don't want you to experience this imposter syndrome, okay? Because your experience is what's going to draw your audience to you and allow them to relate and identify with you. Because they figure, oh, well, he or she knows what I'm experiencing because they've been there, done that. And I like to think that's probably why most of you, if not all of you, were able to relate to this program, because I could relate to what you're experiencing as a nonprofit founder, right? So this is your brag bank. I want you to be able to list what makes you an expert in your particular field of interest or industry. That's how you can trying to scroll this back. That's how you can price your program at a premium, because that's what people are paying for. They're paying for you to transform their lives, to solve their problems, because they can know, like, and trust you because you've walked in their shoes. Okay? I want you to understand the relevance and the value and the importance of your experience. Don't worry about the education. If your education is valid to what you're offering, great. My MBA has no consequence to this program, none. It just shows that I'm an educated, a formally educated woman, right? But that doesn't make me any more educated than somebody else who's learned through the school of hard knocks, right? There's my stutter. You hear that? So don't devalue that, and don't feel that you're an imposter because you want to brand yourself as an expert, but you don't have any of this formal training. You have life experience, and that's enough. Okay, all of you children, you're expert parents. There's no formal training in being a parent, but you know what you know. And you're an expert parent for your particular child. Nobody knows your child the way you know your children, right? You're an expert. I'm an expert on Eli. I know him all day, every day, frontwards, backwards. He cannot fool me. Now, my husband does not stutter. So he's a little more compassionate with him because he doesn't know what he's experiencing. I know what he's experiencing. And I know that as someone who stutters, you know you're going to stutter before you say that word. We know. S's are hard for us. So what I did as a kid, because my parents, couldn't afford for me to go to speech therapy, Porky Pig was my therapist. And so I would watch Porky Pig. I'm probably dating myself, but I would watch Porky Pig, and I noticed that when he would talk, he would pause and he would rephrase his sentences. So I started reading a thesaurus. And so as I speak, I know how to choose a different word because I know I'm going to stutter on this upcoming word, right? So because of this experience, I know how to parent him. I know how to talk to these different therapists and say, no, don't give him a pass. He knows he's not using his strategies. Mm-hmm. I know, I've been there. He has strategies that he has to use, but he's being lazy with them because everyone else is giving him a pass. I'm not giving you any sympathy card because the world's not going to give you a sympathy card. Mm-hmm. And just want to be real, as a young Black male, he needs to know how to speak to people without fear. He needs to know how to communicate. He needs to know how to present. And he needs to understand that the world is not going to be as compassionate as his parents might be. So I'm not going to give him a pass. But because of my experience, I know how to relate to him. Because of all of your experiences, you know how to relate to your audience, your customers, okay? Use that to your advantage. Now, questions. I had to get that out. It was just some tough love, but I want you to understand that, okay? That is going to bring you value. And that's how you're going to be able to charge for, you can charge for your program, period. But if you, depending on what the program is and who your audience is, you might be able to, charge that premium price to a completely different audience. Maybe you have different levels. Maybe you have a level for this, economics, level, and maybe have, a price for this economic level. That's cool, But just understand that you are a business. And if you are giving your services away for free, not only are you providing a disservice to you, but you're also providing a disservice to your community. Why, Kamila? How am I providing a disservice to my community by giving free services? I'm about to tell you. Because now you're creating a sense of entitlement. Your audience is going to think, oh, that's the way that the world works. That I'm just, just because I'm in a certain situation, that I should be able to get free service. No, that's not the way the world works. The world is still going to charge you. The hospital doesn't care how sick or deathly ill you are. They're still going to charge you for your medical expenses. That's the reality. Colleges and universities, they don't care how disadvantaged you are. Yeah, there are scholarships granted, but there may be some fees that you might have to pay. But even with scholarships, they have somebody else who's funding those scholarships. So they're not just giving your children a scholarship out of the kindness and generosity of their heart. Somebody's paying that tuition on behalf of those students. It's just not you. Okay? So please do not disrespect what experience and life values and lessons that you bring to the table. Don't do that. And don't count the coins for your audience. You don't know what they can afford. You might think they can afford it. They can afford what they want. You value what you invest in. And if you can solve the problem for them, they will pay the price for you to solve their problem. That's what your program is about, solving their problem. All of you guys need to come to Level Up Live so I can just see you in person. All of you need to come to the Level Up Live Expo in September, because this virtual thing, I don't feel like I'm really getting to you the way I need to get to you. Okay. I need to like be able to see you and touch you and like see all your body language and everything. But I really want you to understand, when you talk their language, they're going to identify with you. And then you're solving their problem. That's the transformation. Okay? That's the transformation. They're going to pay for that. Would you not pay what you're doing now? You're paying me, us, in this program to solve your problem. Your problem is you want to generate revenue. You want to make money in your program. You don't feel that just because you want to serve your community that you should have to sacrifice, or that your family should have to sacrifice, or that you have to be less than, or you have to live like a monk, or that, you can't go on, 2 or 3 vacations a year, or that you can't, make a 6-figure salary. Like, just because you're serving your community, that does not mean that all of this other aspect of your life has to sacrifice. I just do not believe that.